There's nothing special about you. You're just an ordinary program. Here's your look at the Diamond Select. This is the Tron Sark action figure. When a brilliant video game maker named Flynn hacks the mainframe of his ex-employer, he is beamed inside an astonishing digital world and becomes part of the very game he is designing. He must team up with the heroic program Tron and invade the forces of Sark and the Master Control program to find his way home and shut down the power-hungry MCP once and for all. This action figure of Sark is based on his appearance in the movie Tron and features 16 points of articulation. We're heading back into the digital world with this review of Sark. We're going to take the tape measure as we normally do. We're going to take it to the top of his head, which we normally do. And then this humbled reviewer, which I normally do, will tell you just how tall Sark stands. Which the answer to all of that is 7.2. Mark that down if you want. And then those seeking to find this in centimeters, let me also engage you by providing the necessary 411. Sark stands, get a gander at this, 18.3 centimeters tall. Now, what kind of reviewer would I be if I didn't show you guys some comparisons to the other figures that we already had a look at? I would be craps. That's what I would be. Here are the other figures that we already had a look at. Flynn, over here to your left, the first figure that we had a look at, and then over here we had a look at Tron. This makes up the 3-figure release, and hopefully certainly not the last. There would still be characters I would love to see Diamond Select release. Figures of Tron, of course, movie Tron characters in. I mean, I could come up with a very long list. Something also I wanted to mention too. I don't know where this falls under the radar of collectors. If there's going to be a lot of people sourcing to find Tron figures, I know I would be because I love Tron. But I wonder if it would have been enough value to Diamond Select to give us Build-A-Figure pieces. Hear me out on this. Build-A-Figure pieces of the Master Control program. I hope everybody was sitting down for that. Drop the mic. If you imagine each one of these figures could have potentially come with just a panel, and the panels could have gone together, and could have gone together, and you could have actually had a standing, not fully 360, mind you, at the very least, but half of that if you had a Master Control program that you could put together and display behind the figures. Again, I'm putting a lot of weight on the idea that people are really interested in Tron figures, just because I love these figures, and just because I love the original 82 film doesn't mean everybody is going to be. And I understand then companies like Diamond Select could venture into the idea of producing larger dioramas for more memorable, maybe more recognized characters like the Ghostbusters. That maybe, again, Tron sits a little lower on that radar. The very idea, the very notion of being able to build an MCP unit behind all of these characters gives me, well, it gives me goosebumps at least. Now that those goosebumps have subsided, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with Sark. A same familiar. Normally in the Matrix, if you get that sense of deja vu, you would know something is going on. But in the world of Tron, I don't think you experience such a thing. You would just say, you get another display stand, which happens to be the exact same display stand that we got with the both released Flynn and Tron. And it's, I'm sure, a stand that we've seen also released before in the past from Diamond Select. A very matte black plastic with only one singular peg to greet you at the door. This would be, of course, the peg to attach the figure to. As I said, these figures don't have any real issues standing, not that I've found at least. So I don't know if I would even make use of the display stands, but it's always nice that they come included with them. Something also the other figures came included with is the identity discs. This one happens to be the one that comes included with Sark, and just in case you're curious, we'll bring in, where is Flynn's? Flynn's is just right over here. There we go. To show you what they look like side by side, I almost feel like Flynn's is slightly a little bit more tang orange than what Sark's is. They're not completely identical. I mean, you could say Flynn's is a little bit more because the paint has covered over and kind of overlapped the areas in which, of course, should be painted in place. Sark falls a little bit more in line. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Flynn's identity disc looks a little bit more thicker in lines than perhaps Sark's. Other than that, though, like I said, it's the exact same identity disc and plugs in the exact same way as well. Just take the figure, And spin the figure around. See that hole right there? Couldn't be any bit more obvious. And this just attaches in place like so. Just push it down, push it down, push it down. And you've got the identity disc on the back of Sark. Other things, speaking in the vein of identity discs, he comes with 2 versions of the throwing discs, complete with the energy ripple behind it. It looks like Halley's Comet flying across the sky. This one is more of a straight direction. This one is a slightly more curved direction. Interesting, though, if you want to look at the 2 side by side, or at least this way, for some reasoning, the curved one is a more thicker plastic. I'm not sure the reasoning for that, but I mean, as you can see, one is a little bit more thinner plastic, one is a little bit more thicker plastic. Now, you can display them in their hands in order to accomplish such a feat that seems impossible. All you do is take these little opened areas here. See that little open slot, open slot? All you do is just sort of fit that in between their fingers. It doesn't always fit because sometimes they have to fit around, there you go, around the little gauntlet area, for example. But if you get it just right, you can fit them around their fingers, just like that. See? Just like that. You can have them looking like they're probably a little bit more relaxed on Sark currently, but it is something that you can pull off by having them look like they're throwing the identity disc. You probably would want to do a little bit better of a job than I just did. Let's try. Let's give it the college try. We'll just slot that back into his hand like so. And there we go. Just turn the hand. All right, that's a little bit better. That's more acceptable. I'm happy with that. And that's what it looks like when you're throwing the discs. I mean, again, it's nice to include this. Would I ever display them with the discs already launched out from their hand? Not likely at all, but that's what it looks like. It's a nice touch. Something also, of course, you can do is you can use these ones for the Flynn, as of course they share the same color scheme. And in the same way, you can also use this disc for Sark. This was the one that came included with Flynn. And again, you just line that up, fit that into the hand, just like that. Maybe we even just flip it around the other side there and just tuck that in place just like that. See? Just like that. Couldn't be any bit easier. It's not magic. Not that I'm aware of, at least. I lost my magic abilities years ago, but yeah, that's what it looks like when you got them attached in their hands. Speaking of hands, we'll just put those to the side. The other thing comes included with Sark is a pair of relaxed hands, as you can see right there. I mean, I'm fine for the idea of just displaying them with these hands. I mean, they're relaxed in one sense, and in another sense, they're also fingers that are a little bit wider gapped. I'll show you what they look like side by side. See, this one is a little bit more like a cupped hand. I guess this one is really suited for holding the disc. This one holds the disc a little bit better than these hands. These hands are better suited for the throwing discs. That being said, recharging our energy, let's have a look at Sark's head portrait, a stellar likeness of actor David Warner. I think David Warner was the one that played Sark. In a slight way, if I'm looking at it just on a different angle, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Alan Thicke as well. I don't know why Alan Thicke popped in my head of all actors to be thinking about, but I do think that's a good likeness. I still feel the strongest likeness of the 3 figures, the trio that we've looked at, is the Flynn, but there's no slouching here on Stark. That's a good-looking likeness. Of course, the slightly purple-tinted face is still the calling card for these Tron figures. This one also has the orange outlining to it. I took a bit of a break from orange to look at Tron, the middle blue. Now we're going back to orange country again, and the orange here I feel on Stark is good, though I probably stated this when we had a look at Flynn. I feel like in certain parts of the movie, Sark's outlining here, is a little bit more of a darker red. Now that could just simply be the way that the movie was transferred, or it could have been when it was digitally enhanced, that red went to a more lighter orange. Whatever the story was behind it, there are certain scenes where I feel like the panel lining here, very nicely done on Sark, comes across a little bit more of a darker, either crimson orange, a more warmer orange, or it gets closer to being a red. Here they've clearly gone more orange. The coloring on his costume, other than that orange, is basically all gray, this light colored gray. But you can really see there's still a lot of cool stuff that they sculpted into this figure. Primarily areas like the boots where you have the little bit of raised of this sort of inverted upside down fin, this sort of kind of looks like a wing almost, upside down, is slightly more raised from the rest of the surface. Like even the boots are nicely done. Now I obviously can't overlook the fact there's a little bit of smudging. It looks like some additional orange paint, for one reason or another, made its way here. Sark, I feel, gets a little messier on paint than perhaps Flynn did. Flynn got off, I feel, a little luckier, and maybe one of the things about it, if we just grab Flynn here off the side here, I think kind of one thing that works in Flynn's favor, that's a lot of F's, is the fact that he has a lot less lines that they have to fill in. When you compare it to Stark, he's got, you look at it, he's got 10 times the amount of lines. That's not 100% correct, but you know what I mean. He's got a lot more lines to fill in with paint. The resulting in that almost causes the figure now to have some additional excess paint around the areas of his boots. As I said, Flynn didn't seem to have as much that issue, but I'll just show you how the detailing does vary from one figure to the other, even though they are sharing the same color scheme. For Sark's articulation, let's go ahead and go through that right now. His head rotates back and forth. One thing you want to really be careful of, by the way, the head moves back and forth, up and down. It doesn't move back and forth too much. It sort of teases you that there's this gap, but you can't really move the head too much up and down. The thing you want to be careful of, though, is these side fins, the ones that stick out from the side of his head like that. You want to be careful because if you are moving this back and forth, be careful that it doesn't clip to the side of his shoulders and you're putting stress against that. I did notice that one of them sticks out a little further on this side than this side right here. I mean, I could either just heat it and bring this one out, or I can have them come together like close friends that haven't seen each other in years. I can put them together closer like this and have it like this. Kind of actually like the fins more slightly out as my design, as my preferred look for the design. Upper torso is on a ball joint, so we have to note that. He does have a waist swivel. His arms move out. You can probably already sort of see one of the problems that faces this figure, and it's more so from the design of the character's costume and not so much the fault of the figure, is he does have these larger shoulder pads. So I mean, you can only move the arms to about there. 45-degree angle. That's about all you're really recording him down for, is a 45-degree angle bend on the arm. And then you can rotate the arm all the way around. He's not limited there at all. He has a swivel at the bicep, kind of conveniently hidden right there above this band that attaches his shoulder to the rest of his sleeve. He does have a double hinge on the elbow. There you go. The hands rotate all the way around, and you can also hinge them back and forth. I did notice, though, on this particular figure that his one leg feels like it's a little on the loose side. It doesn't seem to limit. I mean, I don't feel like he's not going to have a strong stance to him, but I do notice that his feet, I mean, if you just take the torso and shake it a little bit, he does have a little bit of wiggling happening on the lower half. Still, you can move Sark's legs forward. You can move them back to about that much. You can split the legs out, almost to full splits. He has a 1/3 cut swivel on the thigh and a double hinge happening on the knee. Nothing in the boots, but then he does have articulation back and forth on the ankle, and you can also hinge them up and down. So he has all the necessary articulation, all the necessary poseability as well, perhaps for down the road when we may see ourselves a release of a light cycle. Light cycles would make my day oh so much sweeter, like a sweet melon I've plucked and eating on a hot Sunday summer afternoon. How's that? We're going to bring in the other figures once again. Again, I love to see the idea of Diamond Select releasing more of these. A personal favorite of mine, Tron, has been, as you probably have heard, relentlessly spoken over the last 3 videos. The 82 Tron is one of my all-time favorite films. To get the idea of even getting 3 figures looking as good as this has been a dream come true. The idea of getting more figures based on this classic film is only the stuff of hopefully prayers being answered one day from the folks over at Diamond Select. Sark once again delivering his PSA for the day that everything you do and learn will be imprinted on the disc in hand. If you lose your disc or fail to follow the commands, you'll be subject to immediate de-resolution. This could be, of course, held true by the fact that I still have his disc in his hand. It was not lost, it was not dropped, and it didn't go misplaced during the course of this review. Unlike, unfortunately, the experience that Tron faced, and luckily no de-resolution was required there as well. What a nice looking release of Sark, again, from the folks over at Diamond Select. I have to wish that I could have picked their brain and figured out exactly what their long-term plans were for the 82 Tron series, whether this is going to be it, whether we only are going to be 3 figures in and 3 figures done, or if they have big plans. I guess a lot of that determines on sales. Maybe not everybody is going to be jumping on Tron like they would be jumping on, say, the Ghostbusters or the Marvel Select standard fare, but hopefully there's enough sales involved in this line that we may see inevitable re-additions, or additions, I suppose, to the existing line. Some light cycles would be stellar. And I just don't want to rule out the idea that we may get ourselves a Master Control. Maybe future figures could come included with a Build-A-Figure piece to build your very own Master Control. I don't certainly expect an entire 360 turnaround that does rotate. That would be ridiculous, although I would be welcoming the idea of it. At the very least, something that was halved, where it was just the face of Master Control. It doesn't even have to move. It could just be something that sits on a shelf. That would be splendid for this humbled reviewer. What do you guys think of these Tron figures? I'm really liking what I'm seeing. I just hope we're not 3 and we're done sort of thing. Let me know down below, comments, weighing in your comments down below, members of the mob. I always like reading those comments. And if you are a new member of the mob, come on in. Hit that bell notification. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned, because while we are wrapping things up with Tron right now, Lone Panda tier, there is going to be a whole lot of other videos coming soon, so keep your peepers peeled. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.